It's a real pleasure for me to introduce you now our next speaker, Manoj Krishna.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak with you today. I'm going to talk to you about emotional intelligence and how it can be awakened if we understand ourselves and how our minds work. And once it's awakened, how it can transform our life and help us solve the many problems we face, including stress. Perhaps together, we might find an answer to a question a father asked standing where I am at a conference last year. He said his son had gone to university a few months ago and never come back. He'd taken his own life. And his question was, how can the world of education change so this doesn't happen to another family? Now, you may be wondering what a spine surgeon is doing in a room full of teachers. But I'm here as an ordinary human being, talking to the human being that you are. Because you know, underneath all our different layers of identity, we are the same human being. And hidden from our awareness, our minds function in exactly the same way. Just like these computers, which have different contents in their memory, but share the same operating system, which is hidden from the user. For example, the feeling of stress in you and me and everyone in this room is exactly the same. The nature of stress is the same, as we will explore. So what is the purpose of education in the 21st century? Of course, knowledge is so important. But our house is burning, and we need to educate a different kind of human being who's not just concerned with his or her own success, but has a feeling for this earth we call home, and can work with others to solve the burning problems that are on our doorstep, like climate change. We also need to educate children to be excellent human beings and to meet the challenges of life ahead. Challenges like stress, anxiety, relationship breakdown, violence, addiction, and climate change. Now, when you look at that list, you think, oh, they're all very different. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm just an ordinary maths teacher or physics teacher. But they all have one thing in common. All of them begin in our thinking. So the solution must also begin by understanding how our mind works. And that's why education has such a central role in solving these problems. And that's why I say teaching is the most noble profession in the world, because the future of humanity is in your hands. Now, the problem is that we are educated only about the world around us, but not about ourselves or how our minds work. That's so completely illogical. That's true all over the world. Why is that? As a result of this imbalance, we human beings are amazing at solving problems in the world outside. But when it comes to challenges from our inner spaces, like stress, we have no answer. And we just assume nothing can be done. Why is that? We can put a man on the moon. Elon Musk will send a man to Mars. But when it comes to the problem of stress, we put our hands up and say, sorry, Gov, there's no answer. Why is that? You see, just as understanding the way the heart functions allowed us to prevent and solve many of the problems linked to the heart, understanding the way our mind functions can do the same. And I firmly believe every human being and every child has this capacity for this understanding. So to make the world a better place and to enable everyone to get the benefits of this emotional intelligence for themselves, I left my career as a surgeon to set this project up. It's completely free. I wrote the book that you have a copy of. It's just a roadmap that anyone can use to understand themselves and how their minds work. There's no authority, you see, and it's not based on any ideology or belief system. But this understanding awakens a different kind of intelligence. Call it what you like. And that intelligence can transform our lives and the world. Education can make you an excellent teacher, doctor, bricklayer, lawyer, whatever. But to be an excellent human being, we need emotional intelligence. And what is an excellent human being? Well, I asked children this question in a secondary school, and they said for them it meant being happy. It meant being physically and mentally healthy, having relationships without conflict, meeting challenges without getting stressed, living with compassion and a sense of peace, and having a feeling for the earth we call home. And then I asked them, how was their education helping them be an excellent human being? And they had no answer. There are only 3 steps involved, you see, in understanding ourselves. The first is to observe what's going on with curiosity and passion. The second is to accept without judgment. There's no good or bad. You and me, we're exactly the same human being. The jealousy and fear and anger and you feel is the same thing I feel and everyone in this room feels. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But the thing that opens the door to intelligence is to question why we think and feel that way and what's the process behind that. Let me give you an example. Say my son doesn't call me on my birthday. I get really angry and upset. So the first step is to observe I'm angry and upset. The second step is to accept that it's my own unmet expectation that's causing my own pain. That's so hard to do. The third step is to question, where do my expectations come from? Why do I have them? Are they my responsibility or somebody else's? And can I live without them? That question opens the door to intelligence. Questions, you see, are really important. Isaac Newton in 1666 was just sitting in his mother's garden, saw this apple fall from a tree and asked why, and discovered gravity. In the same way, we can observe our thoughts and feelings and ask why. And this can open the door to new discoveries about ourselves and to emotional intelligence. Questions like, why does my mind compare itself with others all the time? And what is the root cause of stress? You know, it's such an important question because this is a poll I did in a secondary school. 80% of 11 to 15-year-olds say they are stressed. And in the same school, when I asked the teachers, it was 78%. So if there's that amount of stress in both the students and teachers, what kind of learning can be going on between them? And it's really important because these are the problems that stress can cause. 40% of GP referrals in Britain are because of stress. It damages our immune system and causes everything from heart disease to cancer. It's like there's a fire burning in the room and we're just ignoring it. But it's damaging our health for the long term, so we urgently need to find a solution for it. And prevention, you know, is so much easier. Because this intelligence is like learning to swim. So when the challenge comes, you don't drown. In Britain right now, the mental health provision is shout when you're drowning, we'll throw you a life jacket. By the way, there's not enough life jackets to go around. And the drowning man doesn't know how to shout for help anyway, does he? So the first thing to understand is the actual stress lies in our reaction to the event and not in the event itself. Look, everybody in that traffic jam isn't stressed, and not to the same degree, but each person thinks their reaction is completely justified and the only way to see things. And to get over stress, there's only 2 things we can do. We can either change the situation, like this traffic jam, which is often not possible, or we can change our reaction to it, right? And if we want to change our reaction to it, we have to understand, where does this reaction come from? And it comes from me, so I need to understand myself and how my mind works. It's really very simple. So let's begin with a common problem. Why do we get addicted to our phones? Well, we get addicted because our minds have this need to be stimulated and occupied all the time. Try sitting quietly in a room doing nothing. You'll see how restless you feel. And this addiction to social media, of course, is making our minds dull and damaging all our social skills. So I asked these teenagers, why does social media stress you out? And they said, It makes us compare ourselves with others. We have to fit into a perfect image of what we're expected to be. We hate our bodies. We hate other people for putting pictures of their perfect lives online. I said, hang on a second. How come something like a phone can make you think, feel, and behave in a certain way without your awareness or your consent? And they had no answer. So to answer that question, we need to explore the many unconscious patterns of thinking that work in the background, which is what the book explores and we're not aware of. So today we're going to explore just 3 of them: conditioning, comparison, and our emotional needs, and see how all those 3 contribute to our stress. So the first thing to understand is all our influences from childhood are stored in our memory. That's normal. And we're influenced by our culture, family experiences, social media now, TV, and so on. The thing that is unclear, we're not aware, is that we're not aware that we're being conditioned. And we become attached and think whatever comes out of our memory is correct. Let me give you 4 examples. You read the Telegraph and have one view on Brexit. I read The Guardian, I have a different view on Brexit. When we meet, we don't say, the Telegraph says this and The Guardian says that. We say, that's my opinion. And then I try to convince you, and you try to convince me. You just have to look at Parliament to see what's going on. Or, I'm born on this side of the street in Belfast, I'm Catholic, you're born on that side, you're Protestant. We grow up hating each other. We've never met. We never ask why. Why? Why do I hate somebody I've never met? Or I come from a family where nobody's worked. Nobody's been to university, as Anne-Marie was saying earlier. So I just assume, hey, that's my lot. Or someone I love leaves me. I'm heartbroken. I close my heart to love. I say, I'm never going to let anybody in again. And of course, I suffer for the rest of my life. These are all practical examples of how conditioning affects us. Now, you want to understand the behavior of another person, just look at how they've been conditioned, and you'll immediately see, you'll understand why they're behaving in a particular way. You know, this understanding also brings compassion. A teacher in Newcastle came to tell me this understanding had helped her to forgive her parents. I said, how is that? She said, because they don't know they've been conditioned, and they are acting in a way based on that conditioning, just as I do. You know, I'm also acting in the way that I'm conditioned, and so are they. So they're not aware, and so, hey, hang on. How can you hate somebody or be angry with somebody who's not aware of what they're doing? Now, I'm not a religious man at all, but I love this line attributed to Jesus Christ, which was that, Lord, forgive them, because they know not what they do. And they know not what they do because they don't understand their conditioning. And why don't they understand their conditioning? Because throughout education, no one has ever taught them to question it. Let me give you a personal example. 30 years ago, I came from India with 2 bits of conditioning. The first, I should look after my parents as they get older. The second, women should do all the housework. So much conflict in our house. But if you had challenged me, and I was challenged many times, I'd say, I'd give you 100 reasons why I'm right and you're wrong. But when I started questioning my own conditioning, I said, hey, it's a good thing to look after my parents. I'm going to hang on to that. But I could find no reason to justify why women should do all the housework. So that just naturally disappeared. Do you understand? See the beauty of that? Understanding awakens intelligence. Intelligence brings change without effort. And it only happens if you question your own conditioning. If you challenge me, I put the barriers up. But if I question myself, that awakens the door to intelligence. So the question is, and I ask all the children I meet this question, do you want your unconscious conditioning to direct the course of your life? Or do you want your intelligence to do so? They all say we want our intelligence to run our life. I said, if you want that, then you have to learn to question your conditioning. It's not wrong, but you have to understand the unconscious conditioning that has made you who you are. So the beauty of that approach is it sets you free to follow your own path, You can be the person you want to be, and you don't have to be burdened with all your past sorrows. The second thing to understand is the mind compares what it sees with what it knows, and faster than that bullet coming out of that gun, it immediately reacts. Now, this reaction comes from our memory, so we think it's correct. We justify it. But all that's happening is come from my particular conditioning, see? So I only see the world through the prism of my conditioning, though I think that's the only way to see the world. So comparison, you see, is essential for life. I met Bill and Asma today, and I've met them before, so I recognize them. But it also causes envy. And it wants us to be like others, or makes us think being happy lies in being better than others. And it's the biggest cause of stress caused by social media. So, just like sunshine is essential for life, but the day we discovered it can cause skin cancer, we put cream on when we went to the beach. So understanding brings intelligence, intelligence brings action. So then I asked some young teenagers, I said, how can we respond to the fact of comparison with our intelligence? Is it possible for the mind not to compare itself with others? And what would our life be if we were able to do that? A girl at the back of the room said, we'd be free. And my hair stood on end. I just could not believe how intelligent these children are if we ask them the right questions. And I always say to them, I've come to learn from you. And I always learn something new when I talk to them. We all have many emotional needs that are hidden from our awareness. We need to be loved, listened to, feel important, feel accepted, have physical affection, be stimulated, have pleasure, have a need for power, though we don't recognize it, and want to feel secure. So when these needs are met, I'm really happy. I love you, I love my job, I'm really happy. I become attached to you. Whatever meets my emotional needs, I become really attached to. Whether it's a religious belief system or the ideology of Brexit or my pet or my phone or car, whatever it is, I become attached. What happens when my needs are not met? Suddenly, I start feeling stressed. I don't even know why. And because we're in a relationship, I say, it's your fault. I'm going to find somebody else. Or I say, it's the job I'm doing. I'm going to find a different job. Or whatever it might be. And then I just repeat that pattern again and again and again because I don't recognize the roots of it in my thinking. And these needs are so powerful, they're also behind our overriding self-interest. And that's why human beings are concerned with themselves primarily over everybody else. And because we're not aware of these needs, we never question them. For example, why do I want to feel important? It's like saying, hey, here's a key to my happiness. Make me happy. Make me feel important. But you've got your own needs to take care of. You've got no time for me. I was a surgeon for 30 years, and I'd walk around the wards, and the nurse would say, I'm really stressed today, Mr. K. I said, why? She said, nobody recognizes my worth. I'm just doing this job. It's thankless. I said, why do you want somebody else to recognize your worth? Why can't you recognize your own worth? You see? And they had no answer. It's because these needs operate in the background and we never question them. These needs, by the way, are also responsible for all the conflict we see in relationships. If we're in a relationship, I'm trying to get you to meet my needs, you're trying to get me to meet your needs. It's a quid pro quo. And of course, that's going to create conflict. So the root cause of stress, having understood these three core mechanisms of thinking, is just that something out there is different to the way I want it to be in here. And that creates a disturbance. We call it stress. It's the way you're stacking the dishwasher, hanging the clothes out to dry, or your view on Brexit, or your gender preference, or whatever it might be. Or it's a difference between who I am and who I want to be. I'm a size 10, I want to be size 6, I want to be smarter, taller, whatever it might be. Have a thinner nose, bigger nose, etc. And the third reason that we get stressed is because our emotional needs are not met, as we've discussed. The other effects of conditioning is that it's responsible for all our prejudices. So, for example, if I meet somebody who's got a different opinion to mine, without realizing it's creating a disturbance, and that's creating conflict and argument. Or I meet someone with a different skin color. I'm in a white neighborhood, suddenly a bunch of people move in of different skin color, without realizing why. Unconsciously, there's a disturbance. And in that context, my reaction would be racism. Or anti-Semitism with a different religion, or anti-Islamophobia, or homophobia. How do we respond to these things? We bury them, don't we? Put them in our pocket, shut them away, saying, oh, it's a bad thing. I can't be seen to be a racist or homophobe or whatever. But it never goes away. It just bubbles away underneath. And it comes out when in some form or the other. The other thing that happens is that to avoid this disturbance, we surround ourselves with people like us. So I'm in my own echo chamber. There's nobody to challenge my views. I'm the Christchurch attacker. I work in a right-wing group. Nobody's there to question me because everybody around me is the same. And that's how tribes form. And as soon as a tribe forms, there's the seed of conflict, and that's the history of humanity. So understanding this process can set us once and for all completely free. So how can we respond to stress with intelligence? First thing is pause. Ask, is there another way to see the situation? Is there another way to respond? Because our first response, which is explosive, is from our conditioning. Slow the reaction down. Allow intelligence to operate. Empower yourself. Take responsibility. If I'm stressed, saying, I'm not going to blame you for my stress. I'm going to take responsibility for it. It empowers me then to do something about it. And I could learn something new about myself in the bargain. So that example where my son didn't call me and I took responsibility and I discovered it's my own unmet expectation. And those questions then set me on a journey of discovery to understand the role of expectations. And so many things became clear. Stress makes us zoom in. So we have to consciously zoom out. I failed an exam. 100% of my life is in that failure. I jump off a bridge. So if I'm taught in childhood to zoom out every time I'm stressed, so many young suicides could be prevented. Now, this is my list of the things I'm grateful for. But we take the things we already have for granted. We all have a list. Write it down. So when you're stressed, look at that list or write it freshly. And we need to teach this to all the young people we meet. So many young suicides could be avoided with this understanding. Now, stress is like a fire in the brain. It makes me want to escape. And gambling, alcohol, drugs, some form of stimulation is an easy escape. But those escapes cause more problems than the original stress, right? And because I've escaped, I've not understood. So the pattern of stress keeps repeating itself in my life. And it never, ever goes away. I think I had this discussion with Bill when we first met to organize this conference. And he says, you might do all the meditation and mindfulness today, but tomorrow morning you pick up your phone, look at Instagram, someone's been on a holiday to the Maldives, and you're stressed again, right? So if you understand the roots of it in your thinking, then that's it, finished. There's no more stress. If you're stressed, stay with it. Understand the roots of it in your thinking. Whatever it is, comparison, conditioning, expectations. And eventually, if you can meet it without language, it dissolves. Please don't take my word for it. Test it for yourself and find out. Acceptance dissolves stress because it's a difference between how things are and how I want them to be. If I can accept the way you stack the dishwasher, or your gender orientation, or your religious belief, or your skin color, or whatever it might be, that's the end of my stress right there, finished. I failed an exam. Okay, I'm going to get back on the bike and go again. Someone I love has left me. Well, it's not a prison, Everyone's free to do what they want in life, and so on. So the minute you accept something, stress dissolves. It doesn't, of course, mean that we accept injustice. or don't strive for excellence. Not at all. It just means we can do that with a really calm mind. Understanding ourselves, as I said, awakens intelligence. And this intelligence can solve many of our problems. For example, I'm in a relationship, I'm really stressed. If I understand it's my own emotional needs that are causing my stress, I take responsibility, we have a conversation about it, and the stress just disappears. Because then that conversation, the other person is the same as me. See, we're the same human being. Make time to be still. Call it what you like, mindfulness, meditation, or just sit quietly. A quiet mind is less reactive, and there's much more space then for intelligence to operate. So my question to you all is, how can we introduce the benefits of emotional intelligence to children? So I speak up and down the country. I've done about 100 plus talks in 40 institutions. I go and talk to students and staff, and there are different models working in different parts of the school, country. So in Leeds, for example, we have a group of teachers who have taken ownership of this project, and they are working with me and then rolling it out into their particular school. Now, I know the world of education is tough. I've been sitting and listening to how hard it is for you guys. But listen, if we really believe something is important, we'll always find a way, right? John Kennedy said in 1960, I'm going to put a man on the moon before the decade's out. Everybody thought he was nuts. But we human beings are amazing. When we put our mind to something, we can achieve amazing things. And what I hope to convince you today, that this emotional intelligence is essential for our children, for ourselves, and it needs to be woven into education in some way. So the other thing to understand is that unlike knowledge which can be shared through books, this intelligence needs to be awakened in the child. And we can do that by asking them questions. You'd be amazed how 8-year-olds have an amazing intelligence. Just sit down with them and talk to them. Ask them the right questions. And you'd be amazed at their intelligence. So observing the way our own mind works is the only way this intelligence can be awakened. I can't tell you, for example, what water tastes like. Let me give you an example of the wisdom of children. So I asked some teenagers, what do you want from your life? And they said, we want to be happy. I said, sure, okay. What makes you happy? Oh, buying things, having great experiences, fine. How long does the pleasure last? They said, oh, not long. A few days to a few weeks. I said, what happens when the pleasure ends? They say, we feel empty, discontented, restless. I said, what do you need to do next? He said, we need to go buy something again. Or we need to go on holiday again. But we need something bigger and better, right? It's true for all of us. See, we're the same human being. No difference between you, me, and the children here. But then I said to them, what implications does that have for the world? Now, these are 14-year-olds, remember. And they said, it leads to increased consumption. And it's behind global warming. Now, can you imagine the intelligence of 14-year-olds if you ask them the right question? So we need to learn from these kids and facilitate this awakening of intelligence in them. If you'd like to find out more about the work I'm doing, have a copy of this presentation, want to start a project in your school, or just have a comment, please email me. And my email's up there. It's info@humanenquiry.org. I've also written a manual for teachers who want to teach emotional intelligence in the school. And it's a work in progress. It's a collaborative project with teachers around the country. And again, if you email me, I'll send you a copy of that. There's a website with podcasts, videos, blogs, and questions for your own inquiry. You know, anybody in this room can write the book that you have because it's written about the mind that you and I share. So to summarize, understanding ourselves and how our minds work awakens emotional intelligence. And this intelligence, in turn, can lead to happy relationships because I understand myself, I understand you. I can meet life's challenges without getting stressed because I see the roots of that in my thinking. I can be healthier because I'm mentally healthy now. I can live with compassion because I understand why you're behaving and acting in a certain way. and I can live with a sense of peace. Also, I can develop the soft skills that employers are really looking for, much more than whether I've come from Middlesbrough or Oxford. They want to know whether I can do the work and not crumble to pieces. So knowledge fades, Everything we teach young people will fade. It's on their phones anyway. But this emotional intelligence and wisdom, once it's awakened, will last them a lifetime. And my question to you is, how can we share this with children? Thank you.